and thank you for clicking over. So, there are actually a lot of reasons why I can't talk about a large part of the story on YouTube. First, though, I want to take a moment to talk about how beautiful Akko City is. Honestly, I had no idea about anything in Akko, like nothing. I didn't know any of the tourist destinations or its attractions. I literally just intended to go straight to the hospital. I was going to just bus straight there, actually, but I decided to walk, and I'm glad I did. Because as I walked around, I noticed how lively the city was and how pretty some of the sights were. Of course, it's a very small town with many troubles, as all small towns in Japan have been facing recently. But it's also an extremely peaceful place with so much history. Despite only intending to film some footage of the hospital, I ended up walking around Akko for 5 hours. The old castle ruins were really interesting, had tons of history to learn about. And actually, I didn't even know this until I went, but the city is most famous for its association with the 47 Ronin, which all have statues at this famous Oishi shrine. In fact, the 47 Ronin event is actually called the Akko incident in Japanese. I had no idea. To be honest, I'm not super educated on Japanese history in general, so I didn't really know anything about the 47 Ronin at all. But apparently, every year in Akko City, they have a festival to celebrate them, and they have like a mascot with the names of all 47 of them written on it. But anyways, yeah, if you're ever in the Himeji area or heading to Shikoku or whatever, I think it's definitely worth spending a few hours in Akko. I enjoyed it for sure. Oh yeah, and there's like this Beatles museum that has ads for it everywhere. Maybe you could see it, but for me it was closed, so I couldn't go. But yeah. In summary, what I want to say is it's super unfortunate what happened at the hospital there, but that in no way reflects on the character of Akko City. Actually, Matsui's from Himeji, which is next door, so he's not from Akko anyways. But yeah, I've been following this story for a while, long before Matsui was arrested or this became major news. And the reason for that is because of a very controversial website. And I actually became a part of this controversy, so this part of the story will explain not only the full story behind the Matsui case, but also how I got involved and why this video was so delayed. So back in 2023, when no one knew about this case at all, there was this website that popped up. And on this site, a guy made weekly updates telling the story of Dr. Perkins. Now, that's not the real name, but out of courtesy and an abundance of caution, I will not be saying the real name, for reasons you'll hear later. Basically, through illustrations and text, the author told a story of a very bad doctor who was injuring a lot of people, and it was very similar to the Matsui story. His stories were really well made and entertaining and ended up getting a lot of attention. Now, people couldn't tell if it was a work of fiction or based on real life because it had so many details and was told in a very realistic way. So eventually people started digging and finding real life events that were taking place very similar to what was going on in the Dr. Perkins illustrations. In the end, the website ended up getting a lot of media attention as the press started looking for the real Dr. Perkins and getting in contact with the victims. But as a completely unrelated aside, what would deter someone from just whistleblowing on a case like this? Well, if you know a lot about Japan, or if you've just followed my channel for a while now, you would know that Japan has very strict defamation laws. You can basically get sued for defamation for anything. Like, you can tell the truth about someone and still be guilty in some cases. That's outside the scope of this video and my legal expertise, but just know that it's a thing. So, a whistleblower who gave out a lot of details could still be in hot water, or at least a tricky legal situation, especially if this person was hypothetically whistleblowing on a piece of shit like Matsui, who has zero issues with suing anyone who comes in his way. I'm just saying that based on his history with Akko Hospital. So, when I started working on this video, I contacted a lot of people involved in the case, including the local Akko Citizens newspaper that broke a lot of the stories, and I went to Akko to check things out for myself, which is where the footage you're watching, yeah, I've already told you. But one of the people I contacted was the Dr. Perkins guy, because based on how detailed his story was, I figured he was either an employee of the hospital or someone related to one of Matsui's patients. I thought he might have a lot of info for me about the case, and he had done a lot of research, clearly. Plus, I wanted to feature some of his illustrations in my video. So I emailed him saying like, hey, I'm an English YouTuber. I'm making a video about the Matsui case. Can I use your illustrations in my video? And he said, sure, go for it. But send me a draft before you publish. And I was like, cool, perfect. I can tell the story super easily this way in its entirety. And I started working on the video. But then a couple weeks later, I was about halfway done and I sent him a draft. And he was like, oh, I completely misunderstood what your video was going to be like. I only allowed other media outlets to use my works because they were talking about like the state of Japanese medical care, and how errors are treated as a whole. Remember, my works only depict a fictional world, and any resemblance to real people is purely coincidence. So I cannot allow you to use my works if you're going to talk about specific real people. So, out of respect for his predicament, I don't want to show his works or even mention them, since, as he said, they have nothing to do with the Matsui case, and they only represent the problematic state of Japanese healthcare as a whole. I hope you understand what I'm saying, because I'm going to leave it at that. Now, I want to really emphasize here that I have no hard feelings towards the author of Dr. Perkins. He is completely in the right to not want my video to get him into any legal trouble, and it was very gracious for him to allow that in the first place. He had no obligation to let me use his work, and in fact, I'm incredibly grateful for him for simply just bringing this issue to light. But from a production point of view, this was a massive setback for the video. It made it a lot harder to make and made it take way longer because all the scenes in the video are very difficult to portray without his illustrations. And the video wouldn't have been good enough if I just had documents and no visual media whatsoever. So all of this definitely slowed down the release of the video because now I had to redo so much stuff and rethink all the visuals and find new art to go with the story. But it ended up working out really well. I actually think the art that we ended up coming up with is better than the original. Sorry, no offense to the Dr. Perkins one, but it's just a different medium. I'd like to give a big shout out to my friends Eli and Liv, who made the awesome art that is in the video. They really pulled through for me and did an amazing job, such a great job in the extremely limited time that we had. It's truly incredible what they pulled off, and the video would absolutely not have been possible without their hard work. So thank you to Eli and Liv. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters who make, taking 7 weeks to make a video not just completely destructive to my lifestyle. And if you have extra funds, please consider supporting the Patreon. And thank you so much for watching part 1 and 2. See you guys next time. Thank you so much. Bye.